Just to let council members know too, this bill or gambling bills that was in the legislature is all deferred. So this is basically just a discussion to, I guess, fill out how members feel about, some kind of alternative revenue sources. Ms. Willie?
Okay. Let me just say, by way of background, what I'm really trying to bring forward here is, as we move towards budget discussions and how we can save money and how we can deal with a shrinking 9-slice pizza pie, that we also need to consider what additional significant revenue streams are possible. And to give some context to that, I mean, we on this island, our funds come from property tax primarily, the second transit accommodation tax, and those bills we're going to be getting less from transit accommodation tax. Either the House or Senate bill is reduction. And each time I find so often budget discussions just look at how we can deal with this shrinking pot of money. And so I'm bringing this forward as, here's one way that we could bring in a significant amount of money. When Linda Lingle was asked, her administration, how are you going to bring in additional money? Basically, she just said, I plan to gut the unions, and that'll take care of whatever our budget needs are for this year, so I'm not looking into anymore. And Abercrombie is focused on transferring public lands and selling off what I consider our future, our watersheds. And then you start getting down to how are we, then you start getting into these small cesspool fees, parking fees, which really are not going to do it. If you look at just our county, without getting into all of what we want, whether it's multi-purpose buildings or more money for anything, we're like wastewater, we're out 30 million just to at least to correct areas that we could be fined for, or ADA 45 million. So I'm just trying to have an adult discussion here. It happens that I have quite a bit of background in terms of different levels of gambling and gaming from in Maine, where I fought off a high stakes bingo facility that was going to be in a treasured wetland, but in doing so, I learned that a lot of that life isn't black and white, and that high stakes bingo is not the same as casino gambling, and that the social ills that come with casino gambling and often organized crime are ordinarily not there. There are 2 high stakes bingo facilities in Maine at this time. They are located away from downtown areas. They don't operate around the clock the way most casinos do. And this is something that I'm bringing forward. I'd be willing to look into it more, or maybe have a task force, but if you all have other ideas, I'd like to hear them. That's all I'm saying. Here's an idea. I know we're looking at what is the least bad alternative to deal with really important financial needs that we have right now. Second, I just want to say, here's something that I really would like us to discuss. We tend to be in the wake of Honolulu. I expect next year the funds, all of our funding and unpaid, unfunded liabilities are going to grow. There's going to be an increased effort to bring in a large-scale casino into Waikiki, which I think would be very bad. And I think we ought to be having discussions on our level and not just sitting there and things happening. But the reality is, we are in dire financial straits. It's not just a matter that the economy's picking up, and I look forward to hearing any ideas you all have, and maybe pursuing this idea or maybe pursuing other ideas. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Kern?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know enough about high stakes bingo to really have a strong opinion on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some time talking to people in my district, my constituents, seeing how they feel about that. the challenge that we've gotten into, which is, I guess, the big defining factor between private business and government. Private business is having economic challenges. They actually have to adjust, and if their prices are going up and they get their costs are too high, they try to push that onto their customer, and their customer has an option at a certain point to say, I'm not going to do business there anymore. They have to be nimble. On the government side, we seem to be able to increase taxes, increase revenues, and the customer, us, the constituents, the people here, don't have the same option to say, I don't want to do that other than leaving. So, and what's happening is we're looking at ways to increase our revenue without actually getting into the depth of actual fiscal responsibility and trimming, cost-saving measures, efficiency, effectiveness, which some of that might move into certain things being better private, and it may not. Public-private partnerships, they might have their place and they might not, depending on how it's structured. So to me, continuing to add on ways of how do we increase revenue without taking responsibility and cutting costs and making things more effective. I mean, just look at the DOE, for example. They're so top-heavy in administration, and the teachers are getting the short end of the stick. That's a problem right there. That alone, just looking at DOE and trimming off the fat in the administration part, moving some of those jobs out to more educators, huge difference there. We're getting much bigger bang for our buck. So I feel, while we need to be looking at ways to increase our revenue, we have to be fiscally responsible and actually getting in there and doing some of the hard work and challenging work of adjusting things, shaving things off where it needs to be so we can actually be profitable. We need to be not even profitable, just a balanced budget with able to provide the services that we need. And bingo might do that, it might not, but it's not going to fix the problem. What we have to do from the state level and the county level is get in there and actually fix the current problems that exist while increasing revenue. That's my feeling. With that, I yield.
Ms. Poindexter?
Yeah, I really feel that this would definitely not give us any financial gain. I look at what Ms. Corey Horton had provided, which is some very good statistics or data that proves that we would not gain financially. I think we'd put ourselves in a hole more with the types of, criminal activity. And when, when Councilmember Willie stated that it's not the same as casino gambling, gambling is gambling. And like, again, with what some of Corey Horton's testimony, you have a gambling addiction. You have a gambling addiction. It doesn't matter what type of gambling it is. Gambling is gambling. So thank you for providing this data, and I too oppose the high stakes bingo. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Ford.
I don't want to come off as Miss Goody Two-Shoes on this issue. I go to Nevada once in a great while, and I lose my $20 and I'm out of the casino, okay? So it's not that I'm totally opposed to gambling. $20 is my limit. I'm in and I'm out, I'm not much fun in a casino. And then I resent it for the rest of the trip that I lost my $20. It's really not good for me. Okay. Ms. Harden has provided fabulous research. I want to tell you about a presentation I gave 2, maybe 3 years ago, someplace in that time frame when this came up before the council before. It wasn't high stakes bingo, it was just gambling in general. And I did a lot of research, secondary research. And you want to get the real education, go into a Gamblers Anonymous website and see what they have to say about it. Here was the bottom line. For every dollar the municipality receives in revenue, you spend $3 on social issues caused by the gambling. The foreclosure rates go sky high. The suicide rate goes up, and so you're dealing with that issue. Other issues, alcoholism or something goes into it. Gambling is based on an attitude of, a belief in, I should say, that luck is what really runs the world. If I have good luck, I'm going to hit the jackpot or I'm going to win at the casino, and then everything's going to be hunky-dory. But it doesn't. The world does not run on luck. It really does not. And I know it's a belief that some people have, and I'm not trying to change their belief. But we have so many social problems here in this state, in this county, that we don't need to add more. We can't afford more foreclosures. We can't afford to pay for more social services. We can hardly pay for what we desperately need right now. If you can get social workers in here, you're going to hear a real tale of woe. So Nevada has the highest rate of not only foreclosures, but suicides. You do get elements of organized crime coming in depending on the area. If you have any doubt about what I'm saying, you need to get into a Gamblers Anonymous site because it is really horrific. The physical and domestic violence on a physical level and the emotional abuse in families that goes on when you're cash strapped is unbelievable what can happen. So when Ms. Hardin provided this information about the children going to school and they're all stressed out, they may not know where their next meal is going to come from. They may not know what house or car they're going to be living in because mom or dad has a problem. And addiction is an addiction is addiction. And everybody has different addictions. We all have addictions. You can look at me and see what my addiction is, okay? But my addiction is not impacting my children or my neighbors or society in general. But when you deal with these kinds of addictions, gambling addictions, meth, hard drugs, those things, those all impact everybody in the community, starting with your immediate family. And we can't afford to do this. So in California, where I came from, they put the lottery in to help pay for the school district. And initially, when it went in, the state was supposed to pay X amount of all the school expenses, and the lottery was going to pay for the extras. Well, it didn't take the state legislature too many years to say, oh, we're getting a lot of money from the lottery, so let's cut down on the education money that we've been funding and let the lottery pay a greater percentage. And it got worse and worse. Now, I haven't been in the state, as far as talking to people for about 18 years. So I don't know where the lottery system is in California at this time. But be assured, when you got a big revenue stream coming in, that the government will figure out a way to divert funds away from what they were supposed to do. They take money from our hurricane fund. They've taken money from, there's another fund, big fund that they take money from. So what is it? Tobacco products, okay, for the anti-tobacco stuff. So giving the state more money, that will be a short-term fix, but create downstream problems for our families and our neighbors and our economy, in my opinion, is not the way to go. So I would oppose all gambling in the state of Hawaii, or the county of Hawaii for that matter, since we don't control the state. Because I have done the research and I have presented it 2-3 years ago to the council on what it really does cost a municipality. And we can't afford to receive $1 and pay out $3. We can't do it. Thank you.
Okay, any other council members? If not, I just want to make a couple comments too. And I guess one is that this discussion is good, but what I really wanted to get out of this is to find out or to see what alternatives would council members have to trying to create revenue for the counties and the state, instead of or what other options you folks could suggest, instead of just saying, no, I oppose this and that's it. It's like, what other avenues would you folks have instead of having this discussion? And so that's what we wanted, what I wanted to really hear too, from not just saying, no, we're against gambling, but okay, no, we are against gambling, but we want to look at something else, and this is another alternative of what we can have. The discussion about this gambling is just to see whichever council member would want to go and have their legislature in their district to propose this at the next session. Because like I said, this is already deferred, so nothing's going to happen at this session. So the only way to keep discussion going is to keep this gambling ideas alive in the legislature. And this is to give powers to the counties so that they can have that alternative revenue, and not just the state itself. So it's a help where we can help our counties to get more revenue, to get more infrastructure in, right? To get more programs, to give more services to our people, and that's what we're looking at instead of just trying to raise property taxes. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Poindexter.
Yeah, if we're going to bring something like this before the council to discuss on how we can generate revenue, then we should just talk about that. How do we generate revenue? Not just bring about, well, let's bring gambling, or let's legalize marijuana, or let's bring other issues, because it prompts us to think of other ways of creating revenue. If we want to have a discussion on what you want us as council members to bring forward on being creative on how we generate revenue, then the topic should just be that. It shouldn't be, based on something else to kind of try and help us to maybe spark something in our minds to create another source of revenue. If we want to talk about creating revenue, let's talk about generating revenue and bring that forth. I don't believe in bringing discussions of different topics to spark something else. So call a spade a spade. So,
well, that's where I must make a comment to your That's why it's up to the individual council members to bring up discussion, and so I must give Ms. Willie credit for bringing this up, because that's her subject, or what she thinks that can help generate revenue. So if you have other, but I'm just saying that I'm going to move on, but because we don't have too much time. But
I just want to say one thing. Then maybe we should talk about how do we address things like lowering the electric rates.
Well, that's kind of thing. But that's what I say. So it's up to you as a council member to bring that discussion to the table. And so you come up and request to have some time, and then we can put it on the committee. Go ahead, Ms. Ford.
Jay was ahead of me.
Okay, I was just going to say we're off topic.
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Poindexter is correct. We're just on the topic of high stakes bingo. So if we want to do the other stuff, we should do it in another communication or a resolution.
While I agree with what Ms. Poindexter said and Mr. Yoshimoto said, I want to comment on what Mr. Kern said, and I will go a little off topic, so I apologize for that, but you've asked for additional ideas. Mr. Kern talked a little bit about looking in our budgets and saving money and doing these different things, and I couldn't agree more. As a matter of fact, Ms. Smart last year and me this year brought forward the Air National Guard as a means of saving mega millions of dollars in our construction budget. And I have been working with the mayor and Mr. Lau, the managing director, and with department heads to get them to make their applications to the Air National Guard. It's free federal money coming in to help us do construction projects. And to date, we haven't got a single application to have the Air National Guard come in. Yet I've got almost 7 nonprofits who have filed their applications to have the Air National Guard come in and help them. Now there's millions of dollars in a construction budget, which means that it would cost us less to build something. The bonds that we would sell would be less for those things. We might even be able to retire some bonds early and save, higher interest rates. There's a big, huge area of mega millions of dollars, and I have been struggling with department heads to get them to do these applications, and I'm going to basically throw myself on the mercy of the mayor when he comes in this week to talk to us about this issue. I've talked to him personally about it. He's blessed this issue. He said, we can do this, and we will do this. But so far, I'm having some difficulty. There there's one thing that we can do. So I think that we are still in a difficult budget environment. This will come up again, and I think, well, that is really off topic. I'm not going to go there. So some of us have brought forward ideas on either how to save money, if not increase our revenue stream. Now, revenue stream is much harder to deal with than cutting expenses or getting free federal dollars. Now, it won't be in the form of cash. It's going to be in federal construction that they will help us with. But when we're talking millions of dollars, that's wonderful, and we need to be doing these things. Another issue that we'll be discussing this week is collections of our taxes that are in arrears, collection of our outstanding, Zendo did this one, the commercial haulers for the solid waste that we're going to be dealing with this year. These are ways that we can save money, and I actually have to bring in some extra revenue and inspire some people to pay their bills. So there are ways that we can do this. I just don't feel that the math, $1 minus $3 is going to give us what we need. So that's why I'm opposing gambling per se. It's the math doesn't work. But there are other ways that we can do this, and we'll be discussing them this week.
Okay,
thank you.
I just want to make a real quick comment on it, just so that the perception in the public, the application for the National Guard, it's not a guarantee that you'll get it anyway. So it's not that we apply for it and there's millions of dollars for us to get it. I just wanted to make sure that the public understands that it's just basically an application process, and it's not a guarantee that you will get money or they will choose your project. So basically it goes through a process like how probably CDBG does. They evaluate all the projects, and also I just wanted to make sure that the public doesn't get that misperception that the money is there for us, our taking.
Okay, thank you. And we're kind of running a little bit late, so let's have Ms. Willie do the last comment.
Yes, and I just want to say in response to Mr. Kern, I agree with all of that we're trying to cut expenses and be as responsible as possible. But I, at the same time, think that it's also looking at both sides, and as we go into it, I did debate just bringing up, let's discuss how we can bring in income, and I finally decided sometimes it's better to bring up an idea and people start bouncing it around, and I don't like her idea, I've got a better one, and just that was how I came out to that. And at the same time, I think, let me just say, I started in the same position as Corey Hardin's all of this, and it was only because I then was in a position of studying the differences and felt that there was a differentiation, and just looking at different issues and meeting with departments and looking at how do all of these cutting expenses pay for it. Just taking wastewater, getting us and improving our wastewater, that's like 30 million. Where I'm talking chunks of money, not just little savings here and there where let's charge for parking lots or charge for this. And I think we'll get so desperate that we're going to do something even worse, whether that's casino gambling or who knows what. So I just appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion, and I think it's important as we move forward. We're cutting expenses and we're getting down to, okay, what do we do next, and let's all work together on a local level to see what answers are, and not just whatever Honolulu decides, that's what happens to us. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Just one question to Ms. Willie. I know Mr. Reese had mentioned what is high stakes bingo, right? So would you be able to answer that or explain what is high stakes bingo? Okay,
high stakes bingo, the pots are, I mean, I'm not sure what the limit is. They're much lower than casino gambling, and usually with high stakes bingo, like in Maine, the facilities they're using multi-purpose rooms, like what you want to build in Hilo and this, and use them for certain limited hours and limited times, and they happen to be located away from high traffic areas, so you don't just have people wandering in. And often, like I think in Maine, or at least what was planned, was that one day a week it was given over to nonprofits. So it's a little bit more, it's also social. People that were in North Kohala, it's more of a social deal, and there are less problems. So I'm just trying to not keep us from being black and white, that gambling is all bad. Everything, I'm not saying it's not bad. It's how do we weigh and balance all these needs and issues.
So basically, people would come in, buy their cards, the money from purchasing the cards would be the prize money. Is that how it is? Okay.
And it may be somewhat more complex than that, but rather it's pretty much using a multi-purpose building and having it on limited periods of the day, certain hours, whereas, say, casino tends to be 24 hours and everything is totally controlled by some other entity. And we can look into it more. I just wanted to raise the issue before we go into our budget discussions.
Thank you.
One idea to consider.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all those in favor of closing and filing Communication 221, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, Communication 221 is filed. Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.